who owned the factory?
Yes.
Oh, the factory. No, that. See, they built that as a fish house for the fishermen. But the fishermen, before the harbour, they had their own little shacks on the beach, and then when they had the harbour, then they built this big building full of fish tanks for salting. That's when it was a union, I think they called it then. Yeah. And then when the salt fishery faded out, I mean the fresh fishery, and then it was took over by the Glance in Surrey and made into a factory.
Who worked in the factory?
Oh, an awful lot of people from St. Charles. I got to know an awful lot of them, and all that crew around there. Be a good many from here and from the top of the hill. I call the top of the hill by Willard's there, and then right down along to the Sutherlands, and I remember a lot of that crowd. And one woman I know there, Martina Cameron, she used to be a bookkeeper there, and I'd be just a young fellow, and I'd be just running around the factory. I wasn't in pay on the payroll, but they'd be working up there, not working, but where they're making boxes, thought I was working, and just be a nuisance, no doubt.
So they boxed the fish. Did they can it too?
They canned it.
They canned it.
The cardboard boxes, the cans,
Oh,
but the
okay.
cardboard boxes.
And where would this fish go? It would be exported?
Yeah, that was during the war years. There was a lot. It was what they called it chicken haddock, and it was exported overseas. A lot of it.
Okay.
You know.
So some of it went to war.
Yeah.
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 And then later on, where would it go? The United States, or?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the latter years when they worked down at Beach Point there, they had a factory there. I suppose that'd be 10 years ago. They did make some chicken haddock then. It was on the storage shelves around here.
Yes. So, what fish made chicken haddock? Was it herring or?
No. Hake, cod,
Hake.
mostly hake.
Mostly hake.
Mostly hake. Mostly hake, and then that was the main fishery here anyway. Codfish, they canned some of them, but mostly the big ones are salted.
When the cans were boxed, how were they taken out? By truck?
Yeah, yes. Yeah. The salt fish at the first going off was taken out. Well, actually, on the beach they used to be barred to the shoreline with double-end handbars, and on the dories, and out to a vessel outside of that. And then as they moved the buildings back a little ways, used to dry a lot where the flakes were, and they had storage room. They were carted to the shoreline with horse and carts and went to the vessels.
Who would build the flakes? The local carpenters?
Yeah, local fishermen. They're all fishermen at them times was jack of all trades. They built the boats, they built the dories, and they're farmer fishermen, and they ate their own stuff off the land in the barn, and they weren't dependent on too much. The only thing really they bought at that time, when I recall my father talking when they started on the shore, the only thing they bought was salt.
Where would that come from?
Surrey. They used to come by train to Surrey, and then they take the dories and row along the shore down to Surrey from Basin Head or Red Point, or there was little stands all along, right from South Lake, all little fishing stands, same as the Basin Head at Red Point. Bothwell here, some older guys up the road here in Red Point, like Major Young and Clive Bruce. They were closer to Surrey, but they didn't have so far to row, but that's where they got their salt.
So you're looking at big, strong men to be able to row a dory all the way to Surrey and come home with a load.
Yeah. Yeah. Bare hands. Fished all day, same way. A lot of hands be pretty tender for that kind of work.
Were you out there on ice?
Yes. Yeah, not in my own experience, yeah, when I started lobster fishing. When I started lobster fishing first, and like that stand you're talking about down below home there, that was built by the fishermen, and there used to be a little field there, and there was many boats hauled up there in the winter time. And I used to haul up there too, although I fished at North Lake, you know, and haul them. Every spring we took the boats to the lake, we went to ice. Hot and ice. We've set gear at North Lake in ice. And things like that.
Was Basin Head, in your dad's time, was it an attraction for people from away to come and see the scenery?
Anybody that was traveling
Yeah.
would come there, you know. I wouldn't remember that as a young fella, you know, but at that time all the local people, like in my day, they would come to the shore, walk or horse and wagon for the fish, and yeah, any people from away. That's where all the older pictures came from, actually, you know. I do have pictures here of my father dressing fish on the beach, you know.
Being a young fella, were people of your age group, your peers, was this a place to go swimming hot summer nights?
Yeah.
It was a place of recreation?
Yeah, the older crowd. At that time, the main swimming hole would be Bothwell Beach, up below where the run went out below Harvey Stores. So that'd be South Lake Harbour, or that there, right up there. That was the main fishing swimming hole then, not Basin Head.
Not Basin Head.
When I was around Basin Head as a young fellow, there was only 2 or 3 more young fellows there. Stanley Coffin was one, because Percy Coffin had a building over there, and Leroy Robertson, that'd be Willie Robertson's son. They had a building over there. His mother run a little store. And myself, I never did learn to swim. No, I didn't. As I grew older, when it come time, because I was in the water all the time when I got older, or when I started fishing, my hobby would be get away from the water altogether when I wasn't fishing. You know, I worked on it, and that was enough. I'm presuming they put a bridge there when they built the harbour. I'm presuming that now. It's I wouldn't be able to tell you. I'm just presuming it was built at the same time, because I definitely remember playing across on the other side as a kid. Of course, we're little, like Stanley Coffin and I were little Indians, with no water. Although we didn't swim, we had no fear of water, you know. And as far as, you know, when I said I couldn't swim, the extent of it to be dog paddling or wading in low tide or rubber tube or an old skiff, but I presume there was a bridge at that time or shortly thereafter.
So the bridge would probably be the age of some of the buildings that were there, be the age of the wharf when it was first constructed.
Possibly. I can't guarantee you that, but I know it'd be shortly afterwards,
Yeah.
another year or two afterwards, because it was pretty near a necessity for the fishermen, because I remember as a young fella, just a young fella on the wharf. Now that's but after the harbour was built, and then I'd be dressing fish with my father, and Athel Robertson would be around there. That'd be Jack's son, and we'd be helping our fathers. But at that time there was quite a little storm from the southeast that coming on that afternoon, and there was of course at that time a lot of Carrick's fleet was at East Point, Handline, right? But we saw this boat coming down along the shore too close, and then finally she swung in and headed right for Basin Head, and the fishermen come to the end of the wharf and tried to wave it off because there'd be not enough water for this vessel. But they had no choice. She had sprung a leak. They were heading for shelter. Had to go someplace. And I remember at that time, and I don't believe there's a bridge then, but at that time, the bridge was a must. For they weren't sure where that boat was going to go, east side the harbour or the west side, and the fishermen needed a place to get across in case of emergency like that, you know.
Yeah.
It wasn't a swimming bridge then. It was a kind of a must.
Yeah.
Because the harbour, although it was new, but it got so popular, the boats came from every place, Red Point and every place, and it got run out of room to tie up. That's why all the little stands was made up above, like the little stands by Griffin, and halfway up and across below my father's place there. But it was pretty a must for boats to tie on the other side of the wharf too, you know.